Hey Raj, welcome to How Do You AI. I'm excited to have you and speaking to you today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'd love to have a quick intro about your background and everything that you've been doing with AI. Probably in that context would be helpful too.
Yeah, my name's Raj Vora. I own and operate a electronics manufacturing services business. So what that means is most products today have a circuit board inside. You open up an iPhone or a TV, there's a big green thing with a bunch of components on it. And that's what we actually manufacture and assemble. We don't do that for Apple or anything like that, but we do it for like big industrial commercial companies that are kind of low volume but higher mix and higher dollar. And so we build the circuit board, the electronics, we ship that to our customer. They put that into their end physical product, and then that's how we get paid. So that's a small background on who I am and kind of what we do here. And I think the reason we're talking today is because we're starting to try and utilize some AI tools to see how they could help our business. And so far, I've been primarily focused on how to use. I've been on the service Claude. There's ChatGPT, there's Gemini, and I'm sure they're all good. I got stuck to Claude, and I've been using it since. And we're using it. I'm trying to use it for all sorts of things, and I'm also trying to get people in my organization to use it for all sorts of things. So we can get into those use cases as we talk. But we're trying to learn how to use it and how to add more value, other than just help me write an email, which is always great. It's always nice to write a nice email, but how do we extract more value out of it? We're not at the place where we want to be yet with like agentic and things happening for us in the background, but we'll slowly get ourselves there with Claude and a tool called Claude Cowork, and we'll get into that. We're still new to Cowork, so there's not much I have to say there yet, but we're already building a computer for it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Before we jump into some specific use cases and demos and how do you go from 0 to 1, I just have still a little bit of a broader question. In the world of AI where there's so many tools releasing and there's so much sometimes confusion and overwhelm for leaders and people that are operating within the businesses, how do you see, how did you come up to saying, what, Claude's going to be our tool, or how did you come up with some of the use cases you wanted to first solve? So I just wanted to understand your perspective around that.
Yeah, so Claude, the decision on Claude wasn't some big decision, honestly. It was, I was using ChatGPT for a while, and then someone had said, hey, we're using Claude at work. I was like, oh, cool, I'll try Claude. And then Claude had a model out called Opus 4.6. And as I was researching, it seems like that was, at the time, was like the newest, biggest model. It was more of a deep thinking model. There's a few other reasons for it. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And at the time, it seemed like maybe Opus 4.6 was ahead of the pack. This was, some time ago. And even before that, there was Opus 4.5, 4.0. They have another AI tool called Sonnet. And so off and on, we were using ChatGPT, Claude. But then as soon as 4.6 came out, you could see there was a difference in the way it was communicating and a difference in the way that, we could use the tools. So again, I wouldn't say there was much complex thinking, and I would say today, likely, other models are just as capable. So I don't think there's a big use case or I don't think there's a big way to think about which one do you want to use. It's more like just getting your fingers on the keyboard and starting to use it. And so I guess in the beginning, we kind of did similar stuff, emails, this, that, and I was, what happened was, just like everything else in life, someone else had told me, they're like, oh, Raj, I just did this thing in Claude. And I was like, man, like you did that in Claude? Like I need to do something in Claude. And so, and not just in Claude, but in, in these environments. And so we just started putting things to the test. Like what can Claude do? It wasn't about what it couldn't do. It was more just like, hey, there's this thing on my list to get done. Let me see if Claude can help me with it. There's this next thing on my list to get done. Let me see if Claude can help me with it. And I think it was just, that type of experimentation that just really makes you realize, oh, I didn't know I could do this. Oh, I didn't know I could do this. And I think it just keeps going and going, and you keep wondering more and more. And the thing you have to understand is that this is a creator tool. This is not a dev tool. The Claude has dev tools. All these companies have these dev tools, but This is a creator tool, so you really need to put your creator hat on, your director hat on, and know that you're guiding this thing to an outcome. And I think being clear on the outcome is important. That's how you can guide it. So think about it like just having a expert consultant who doesn't know what you want. But the consultant knows a lot, but they can't help you if you don't explain what you want, and they really can't help you if you don't know the outcome that you want. So as soon as you know what you want and you know what the outcome is, that's when you can start using the tool more valuably. And people think after a couple of prompts you're done, but think more like after 150 prompts you're done, 100 prompts you're done. I mean, it takes a long time because you have to edit. It's not perfect. You're going to want it to tell it to do new things, and you're going to have to go in and be specific. And so I think it just takes time to master, and you just have to keep trying. But and this is just these tools. This isn't even going into deeper AI tools, like there's AI music creators, AI video creators, AI, all these other AI tools on the market. But so far, we're just experimenting here, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned, right, identifying the problem area is very important, and we'll talk a little bit more probably on your digital transformation journey, and how do you identify a problem, how do you know which problems to go after. But I'd love to jump right into what outcomes you are able to achieve. If you would like to share your screen and show, and then your journey through the tool, anything you want to show, how you've gone from 0 to 1, that would be hugely valuable.
I don't know if we're at 1 yet. We're at 0 to 0.5, I guess, on the journey. But I guess we'll never be at 1, which is kind of the point, right? You're just going to have to keep using it, keep trialing new things, and keep trying to, improve on the product or improve on the whole process. So I guess, I'm trying to think about where to start on some of the earlier tools and use cases we started thinking about. Let me do one thing here. I'll try to share. Let's see.
As you share, if you can also touch on who is this demo most valuable for? What's the use case? What type of role you should be looking at? Yeah.
Well, I think the thing to think about is that, again, Claude is a consultant. It can manage any subject matter, to be honest. It could talk about chemistry. It could talk about math. It could talk about data. It can talk about sales. It could talk about marketing. It could talk about positioning. I mean, I don't think there's a way to even summarize how many different things it knows, right? Think about it's Google, but the next level of the consultant on top of Google, right? Google got you to the thing that you wanted to get to, but Claude is almost like finding what you need and bringing it to you. So it's kind of the other way around in a way. It's more like using what's out there and bringing that information to you, right? So, and along with it, a set of tools like design tools or PDF tools, Microsoft Word tools, Excel tools. I mean, you can have it output in any format you want. So let's go through one example, for instance. I'll kind of share my screen real quick, and let's see. So, okay. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. We'll get into the actual Claude tool, but just to give you an example, one of the first places I really found, and I created this folder for you guys just to see if we can't figure out nice things to show, but one of the first things I had to do on my to-do list was make a company brochure, okay? And I was lamenting the idea of doing this brochure. I pushed it back month and month and month. But people keep asking us, we need a company brochure. And what I kept telling all our potential customers is, look, just go to our website. That is our company brochure. But some of these companies want a brochure. They just want it. And I didn't understand it, but I just kept pushing this idea off, right? So then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to see if Claude can help me with this. The outcome, just to go over real quick what the outcome was, it was this not perfected, let's call it 98% output from Claude. It was an actual brochure. This whole thing that you're seeing was done in HTML in Claude. From 0 to full finished brochure, I never left the tool Claude, okay? So, but it took probably close to 150 to 200 prompts to get to this level of design, okay? But how do you start, right? How do you get to this is, I guess, everybody's kind of question.
Yes.
But it's simple, like, and I don't know if this is going to be worthwhile, but I'll just show it to you. Like, okay, like, I mean, literally, let's just start a new chat, and we'll say, make a company brochure. There's an app, by the way, we have that you can talk and it types, which is like super helpful, but it can't work while we're on a call. But so Claude, I want to make a company brochure. Now, here's where people might have a problem, is they're going to write this and think Claude's going to do something. But at this point, Claude's not going to do anything for you. It doesn't know what you want. You have not said anything. A company brochure could be 100 different things. So I'll say this. We are a small business. We build I'll say this. We are an electronics manufacturing company. Our customer are usually OEMs and usually do about $10 to $30 million in revenue. I want something that can resonate with that target audience. See, one thing you're seeing is really quickly is I'm being specific. I am focusing the tool on a problem. Now, I'm just going to say this for now, right? Let's see what it does next, right? It doesn't even know anything about me, right? Let's see what it does next. Okay. I need a few quick details about your business. So, like I said, see, and look, it already talks about a brochure that resonates with mid-market OEMs. See, like mid-market, it came up with that terminology, so it's already understanding more about it. So, and look at this, what's your main competitive edge with OEM customers? Well, I don't want to answer these questions yet. I'm just going to, I'm just going to take out these questions for now. And I'm going to say, I dismiss the questions and says, got it, whenever you're ready. Okay. Okay, great. First, go to my website and learn as much as you can about my company. www.vasengineer. Oop. I put that in wrong. www.vasengineering.com. So look, now it's going to my website. It has a solid picture of Vast Engineering. It summarizes my website. Now it's going to talk about the brochure, back to the brochure. So how do you want this thing? I want a one-pager for now, or let's call it a one-pager. Top message to lead with. See, now it's asking me, now it's being specific. It's asking me to get more specific with the question. So are you US-based? What's the main thing that's interesting about us? Let's just say that we're US-based, and that's really good for people to know about. Now, in the meanwhile, while Claude's doing something, I'm going to go and say, hey, I'm going to Google beautiful one-page brochures. Okay? And let's just go to images, and we'll go find an image. Okay, so look, I really like this brochure. Let's just say this one is the one I really like. I'm going to go, let's go find it. Okay? Oh, not that one. That one's okay too, but let's just talk about the one we did. Okay, now I'm going to download this. See if it doesn't download. Okay, let's do this. Let's just take a screenshot real quick. So I'm literally just taking the screenshot of it. Let's save it. Okay. So it's still doing some things over here. So it already started building out a one page for me, right? Okay, look, I mean, look at this. Within about 10 minutes or 5 minutes here, we already have a brochure that looks pretty decent, I would say. Now, let's talk about style for now. I like it, but I want it to look more like this, okay? So I'm going to put in our new screenshot here. Sorry, while I'm doing this live, it's... Come on. Okay, so now I've uploaded what I like, okay? And you could always just give it some links, give it 2 different versions you like, 3 different versions you like. So now it took that style and it's going to try to replicate and it's going to try to redo something. So, I mean, you know, it's fit to exactly one page. It's printable, or at least viewable on a PDF. Maybe they have to create some borders when you print. But it isolated some key target pieces of information for me. And why choose VAS? Why OEMs choose VAS? So, I mean, you know, already you could see that something that I was drowning on doing. I was like, I was just like, I don't want to do this. I can get it done in 10 minutes. And, you know, there's no such thing as perfect. At least you have something that grabs some information off your website. So that's just like one use case. And we won't go that much farther in this, but I just want to get to a place where you can see, like, within a couple of prompts, we're already at something that could work. I don't know, Raj. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or maybe you can sort of maybe ask me some questions, or maybe I can get into more details.
This is great, right? I think this is literally when I meant 0 to 1, right? You've showed us what the outcome was, and you've gone through the process of how to use AI to think about and what tool you're using. And for me, this is more for like a marketing role, or somebody in smaller businesses. Sometimes we wear multiple hats because, to your point, right, you were probably thinking of hiring a marketing consultant or somebody in-house for marketing to do this, and they probably had other things to do, and how you kind of took on that role, and within minutes you had something that you were able to get to, right? So like just from a thinking perspective, like to mature, how long did it take you, or you were just looking for that first version and get it out there as soon as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of a person that most designers and engineers get mad at because I want like 150 iterations. So maybe I'm not the right example, but I went through a lot of iterations to get it right. But that's because I kind of already knew what I wanted. I come from a little bit of a background in some of these things, so I would try to go deeper and deeper and deeper. But here I was trying to show that, hey, look, without even a background in this, I went from finding a quick thing that I really like, because I'm not a designer, but designers have already designed really nice things. And look, this was the picture, and within a couple minutes, we already have one that looks like it. So it's like, you don't even have to be a designer anymore to like slowly get to what you want. And let's do this, just to give an example, let's do one more thing. Let's say, okay, put your marketing hat on. Is there an opportunity? No, let's not say that. Let's put your marketing hat on. Let's just say review this as if you were an OEM. So I kind of said 2 different things. That's my fault. But, you know, look, OEM hat on. I'm a VP of operations, director of sourcing at it. So it's like literally, it's kind of like almost looking at it from a different point of view rather than just the same point of view it already looked at it from, and see what doesn't work. It's already telling you things that what doesn't work on this, you know. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but it's like having a conversation with a consultant that may be right, may be wrong. You know, when you have a consultant, you're not always just like, hey, do what you need to do. It's more like, let's work together to figure this out. So as a team, we're going to work through all these recommendations, you know. And just that's just, again, another way to use a tool. Once you're finished with something, it can be a reviewing mechanism as well. It could help more and more, you know. So this was just one example of how anyone can use the tool. Not someone in marketing, not someone in sales, not someone in engineering, just anybody is using the tool.
I love how you, even without using the word prompt, you've kind of done so many levels of prompting to make it produce the outcome that we're seeing on the screen. So did you go through any kind of formal learning process for prompts, or do you just stumble into as you were working with it from a prompt perspective?
I would call it stumbled. I do think that there's things you need to keep in mind and remember, but I think those things come as you use it. Like for instance, sometimes it takes a long time for it to build because it just takes a long time. And when I say a long time, I mean, we're talking about seconds compared to like 10 days. So let's not be too aggressive there. But so for instance, I would say, first, can you ask me questions where you see gaps in our website but would be valuable to a potential customer? So now I'm going to tell it to ask me questions, which is like a different way to use the tool. Like I'm going to say, hey, why don't you start asking? Like I don't know what I don't know. I'm not good at this, right? So let it be the consultant and start asking me appropriate questions. Okay, so like, do you have a customer reference or a case study you can share? See, that's interesting. I didn't even think about putting a case study on here. But it's now coming up with that idea for me. I'll say, no, prefer not to share publicly. Okay, which industries do you actually serve most? See, these are things where it's like, I can't make this flyer for every single OEM out there. Are you trying to make this for specific ones? So yeah, let's say we're industrial and automotive, let's just say, for instance. And then we'll say, okay, do you have hard quality metrics? Yes, we're tracking it and it's strong, right? So, I mean, like, it's starting to weave and narrow down more and more what could work without me, the non-expert, having the right, mind to build this. I don't know if that makes sense. Sorry, I don't know if I'm confusing it, but...
No, it does, absolutely. I think I love the direction of Claude as a consultant mindset, and it can help you in different areas of business. Now, this is great. Do you have other examples you could show us? I know you've done some work in Excel, you mentioned, and other areas of the business where it's being hugely valuable. So I'd love to see if there's any other demos you'd like to share.
Yeah, I want to get into one, but I just don't know if it's like too fast. But here, let's just get into it a little bit. Okay, so let me take one step back. Okay, so one thing that Claude, I think, is like really good at. Let's talk about like, hey, specific things that I think it can do really well. Like this was good, right? And I would say for 80% of everybody, this is probably going to be fine, right? And you could still tweak it here and there. But Claude, think about Claude as this computer with a brain too, right? So, and what are computers typically good at is data, right? It's like, it's organizing information or, depositing information or storing information. That's what all of our systems are good at today. We have an ERP system, right? So I don't know if anyone's familiar with an ERP, but basically it's a software system, ecosystem that manages businesses like ours that have inventory, products that we're building, etc. We ship things, we receive things, we have to pay, we have invoices to pay, we have to bill our customers. So there's this thing called an ERP, which helps us do all those things. We have an ERP right now. It's good. It works. But we were starting to go search for more ERPs, but we started realizing, hey, all the ERPs are pretty similar. How can we differentiate ourselves when it comes to using our ERP, or how can we just utilize our ERP better? Our ERP is like a gold mine of data. But we're not even scratching the surface of that because we're only seeing the interface that the ERP company has offered us. So where I'm trying to go with this is that Claude is really good at taking large sets of data and then helping you make gold out of that, let's call it coal that was sitting around in your database. And I want to try to show an example of that, but I'm just trying to, I kind of didn't think about this before we started, but okay, for instance here, let's do something really quick. Here's our ERP, and I'm just going to show one thing off. Let's see here. This is called inventory transactions, okay? So I'm going to inventory transactions are such that it's going to find every single time a piece of inventory part number got transacted somewhere in our system, okay? So if we look at this, there's 194,000 records, okay? Now, if I wanted to go and search through this, go find out what's meaningful, what do I need to understand out of it, I have to build some sort of report, and then I would have to like organize the report, I'd have to build a chart or something. So I'm going to do this live, so I don't know what value we're going to get out of this. Let's see. I'm just going to export all this to Excel, okay? And mind you, this is just me trying this out. I don't know. I'm going to transfer all this to Excel, 194,000 line items, and there's a lot of columns in here, okay?
Absolutely.
So let's see if we can find some interesting information from here. We're going to ask Claude questions about the data instead of building out some Excel sheet with a report that we have to do and analytics reports after the fact. So here, okay, so it finished. Let's see. This is a big an export, so give it a second here. Let's go ahead and get started in Claude, though. So we're just going to start a new chat, okay? I say, hey, Claude, I need some help understanding data. But remember, we had to be specific. So I'm going to say that I am a EMS electronics manufacturer. This data set represents all of the inventory. As you can see, I can't type today, but it doesn't matter. Claude's going to understand it. Represents all the inventory transactions for internal part numbers we use in our ERP. Okay, so I'm just going to start with that. Let's see what it says, and let's see if we're done downloading the data yet. Okay, we're still downloading, but it looks like the ERP is not responding, so that's fun. So I'll be happy to help you in inventory transactions. What's your main goal with the analysis? Let's just understand usage. See, look, it's already asking me questions about what I want to do with the data. I mean, like, I didn't know I really would want to understand spot inventory issues. What are spot inventory issues? But let's just go with understanding usage and demand patterns. Okay, right away, again, these are all terminology that maybe you didn't even know what the terminology was, but it's sort of already understanding that. So it can ask, which parts move the most? Seasonality, average usage rate. So seasonality is interesting. I wasn't even thinking about seasonality before we started this. But okay, we are having some trouble here getting the data out. It's a large data block, so maybe it's still working. Let's give it one more minute, and then if not, we'll make it a smaller data set to export. Sorry, just give me a second here. Okay. Let's do one thing. Let's cancel that, and we'll do it one more time, but we'll kind of be a little more specific about the data so that it's not going to take this long while we do a live talk. So here, let's end the task. Okay. We're going to do the same thing, inventory transactions, but I'm going to make a smaller, I'm going to kind of shrink the data set that's possible. So we'll do 900 dash part numbers, and I'll say between, let's call it, 1/1/2024 through, I don't know if through is the right word, through today. 28/26. Let's see if that works. I don't know if that's the right month, day, year. Sorry, Raj. I didn't know I was going to do all this. So let's see.
No worries, no worries. No, this is great. We get to see all the, issues. Even though you use AI, sometimes you have to get the data, and so there's a process to that. And
Yep. Yep.
to like in every system, it could be a CRM, it could be your data from your QuickBooks, your data from any kind of data. If it's and this is clean data because you're getting from the source. But sometimes this is what I always talk about: garbage in, garbage out. But to get a good data set, right? You already have a system in place that captures data, and you have a lot of data from over a period of time, which is very, very helpful. And if you don't have that, then your AI cannot do the analysis on top of that. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Okay, that's the missing word. Sorry. And there we go. Okay. So now the data set's smaller, 44,000 records. Let's try to export this. So I'm only going to talk about the last 2 years. Apparently, in the last 2 years, we've already done lots of transactions, so let's see how this works. Okay.
understanding the data is in any business, I think, is very valuable, and a lot of KPIs come out of it. Understanding deeply what you're trying to do. I think you can start at every level. This is an operational problem for a manufacturing company like yours, but I think this is very relatable to any kind of data set you're trying to analyze and ask the right questions. So this is great.
No, that's right. I think, and this is something me and you kind of talk about a lot, which is, what if I could ask questions to my data? What if I could, we've talked about this, is building out a ChatGPT or a Claude for our own data set. What would we ask it? We could say things like, what's our estimated annual usage of this part? Right? Just to ask that particular question, it would take me almost 3 or 4 different reports and or summarizing information to even get to that, which maybe, okay, I'm not sure what's going on with our tool today, but maybe these are just larger exports and I'm not doing something correctly. Sorry.
And exports take time. I mean, I think I've seen ERP systems where they have a ton of data, right? Sometimes the bigger the ERP, the more complex the tables, and it's not pulling the information out of one table, one system. It's probably doing some joins and getting information from multiple tables and exporting that, and takes a lot of I/O, and saving it to the computer takes time.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we got something. Came back to us.
Great.
All right, there we go. Okay, so we're going to save this. Okay, demo data. We'll save it in the archive. Okay, here we go. So, and I'm going to kind of show you some cool things about what it maybe, and I don't know, Raj, maybe you think this is a good idea. I could show you how long it would take me to get to the same information that Claude might get to.
Yeah, that's a good.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
Think that would be worth it? Okay, so here, let's see. Let's put in a file here. It's going to take a long time. Let's just do it here. Okay, without even telling it much about the data, let's see what it does. I'm not even going to tell it what's the column, what does this mean, what does that mean. Let's just see what it does. And by the way, this was 44,000 records, so it's going. Look at this. There's no data set too big or too small.
Yes, but the interesting thing about people that live in the Excel world, you can now even do so much more in terms of how you can get to your outcomes, how you can automate your formulas. And this is very conversational with your data. So
that's right.
Sometimes every company has an Excel expert. You wait for them, their time, you send them the data, and they give the information back to the business owners what they're looking for. But this is so amazing that you're sitting in front of the system and you're like, here's my data set. How can I ask some questions that make me understand and make some decisions off of it?
Well, you brought up a really good point, which is you're waiting for that one guy or girl that's really good at Excel. You hit a huge point on the head because, see, we had that exact problem. We have someone that's really good at data and Excel, but I always have to wait. But now, literally, I am doing potentially things faster in Claude than even this person can. Now, and I'm going to tell you something. This person is an Excel god in my mind. Meaning, when I watch him use Excel, I can't believe my eyes at how good he is at this. But now I actually almost have that same superpower using Claude. You know, even unstructured data models it could take. I've given it unstructured data through multiple tabs, and it can compile the data together using pivot tables and etc. inside the tool. Now, one other thing I haven't even used yet is Claude in Excel. Apparently it's very good. I haven't used it yet. It's actually built into Excel now. I've heard it's magic. I haven't used it that much. I'm not too much into using Excel tools at the moment right now. So anyways, look, it sort of figured out a few things. It figured out that, what is a kit issue? Okay, so this is kind of crazy. See, I'm even kind of surprised about this right now. It went in and now it's telling you what each column means, what the transaction type was. This is a key field. See below. This is a key field. I was going to tell it that this was a key field, but it had already figured out that that was a key field. Action type is huge. Was it a kit issue? Was it a return? Was it a purchase? Was it a receipt? Like, what type of transaction did we do on that inventory? And I know, sorry, for some people watching, they don't maybe necessarily understand how this data works, but I just want to show you that it's self-discovering the data for me, okay? Now, let's say a few things to flag, issues where your real demand signal lives. So it's telling me this is where my demand signal lives, etc. So, okay, so great. I don't know what to say. I'm going to say, okay, what was the most used part in 2024? Okay, what an unstructured question. Like, this is a very unstructured question because I would have to go and summarize the data, go look at only 2024, take the column, do a sum on that column and add it. But I'm just now asking the question. Look at this, kit issues net of returns. It knows that there's a return problem, so it's also taking that into consideration, which is insane. So part ID 900 108468, this is an internal part number we use. Okay, so it's saying it's a resistor, it's a unit we use. 85,000 units consumed, 114 kit issues, which means it went to 114 different jobs. I mean, look at this. And then it was like, hey, you know what? Just for context, I'm going to give you the top 5 parts. And this is just in 2024, right? Because again, I had to summarize the data a little bit. And then a couple of observations worth noting. Your top movers are exactly what you'd expect for an electronics manufacturer. I mean, I can keep reading this, but maybe someone that's watching can pause and kind of read this at the same time. But I mean, look at this. You're getting such valuable contextualized summaries of the data versus just data. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where else I could show you this example, but this was like within a couple of chats, a couple of prompts. Imagine if I went 20 prompts in and really detailed out what I was looking for. I could say, okay, make me a report that shows summaries of our top 20 parts. Okay, I don't know. This is just a summary for a meeting we're going to have, and we need to know what the top 20 parts are so we can start making better buying decisions, right? So I don't want to build a report. It's going to take so long. I'm just going to ask Claude to do it. Let's see what Claude does in real time, okay?
As it thinks over, here's a question to ponder, right? What are you most excited about your top 3 agentic use cases or things that, you probably don't have the time to work on, but beyond everything that Claude's doing for you? I know you have a digital transformation journey for the last few years. You've built tools on top of your enterprise, but what are you most excited if you have to solve some top 3 problems, and how do you if you've thought about them?
Yeah, I mean, we have, and we're also trying to figure out what's next, right? Just like everybody else, like what do we do now? Now I can use Claude. Let's say you're a Claude expert. What do you do next, right? We're also continuing that journey as well. So, so one thing that we should probably mention is that, I am a customer of Bitcots. Bitcot has been building software for us for 6 years now. So think of our ERP as this treasure trove of data, but it just can't do enough for us. So we're starting to build an app ecosystem around our ERP data. And we write data into our ERP, and we use the ERP database as our common database so that we're always having only one single data entry point where we can build all these multiple apps. But now, one really cool app we can talk about is invoicing, right? So we get invoices every day via email, and those invoices have our parts we need to pay for, right? So let's say a part walks in our door, we receive it in our ERP, but before the part even gets here, we probably already have the invoice for it. And so the problem is the invoices we get are not as structured as you would hope. Every time we get an invoice, it kind of looks different, especially because of tariffs and all these other problems. Every invoice looks kind of different. So one project we built was we had the data come in, we listened to the email, we got the PDF, we would take all the data off the PDF. Then here's where the magic happened. We would send that PDF data over to ChatGPT. ChatGPT would take that data, normalize it, and give it back to us in a format where we could actually utilize it in one of our micro apps. So we were using this AI tool. It was doing it in the background, so I would call this maybe semi-agentic. I don't know what the terminology would use. Raj, maybe you can kind of summarize what the terminology would be there. But it would go and do that task, come back, and then it would start to go look in our system and say, have these parts been received yet? Right now, it takes a human to receive the part. We have this stack of receipts, and then every time an invoice comes, the person that's in charge of this shuffles through all the receipts, tries to find the right receipt, matches it to the invoice, pays for it, does a whole bunch of things. So I think, where you're going to see, I think we're going to see a lot of value is in sort of getting into these different little human loops, where it's really the same thing over and over, right? I mean, the one thing we like to consider is, okay, our goal is to be a business of exceptions, not rules, right? So in the near future, maybe 70%, let's say 100% of things that have to happen in this business for it to work, 50 to 60% of them are rules-based, right? Meaning, like, if this is true and that is true, then the outcome is correct. If it is not, then the outcome is incorrect. If we can start automating those things that are usually rules, then maybe we can start getting a human out of that loop and get into better loops. I don't know if that makes sense.
Love that mindset. I think you've touched great points, human loops and running as an exception. For a lot of people, agentic is loosely used, but whenever you have something that happens autonomously, right? Saying every 2 hours run this and do these actions. And when you have a workflow that happens autonomously, that's agentic. But if sometimes you might not need that. You might just need a workflow to be automated, which is also great for businesses because you can take one workflow and then you can automate at a time, and slowly, eventually you can build like agentic use cases around them when you need some things to be autonomous and you want AI to be involved in these workflows or to run things autonomously. So I think that, that is a great way to think about, how do you take these workflows and automate them.
No, and you brought up a good point, right? Like one thing we're doing is, okay, we're using Claude, and eventually we can start doing more of these, operation cycles of either robotic process automation or even call it true agentic, is that we build a lot of our own software, right? So that also helps. This kind of combination of like, we want to start building some of our own software, but we also want to start using these tools. Like, because you're building software that can kind of customize what you want, then you can also start building these tools into this software. Like our ERP, I can't build any agentic flows in our ERP. I'm just crossing my fingers that our ERP company is going to build agentic flows for me. And maybe they will, but maybe they won't. But what's true is my ERP has a really good API where we can go in and write data, go in and get data out. We can do full-on transactions. I can do full-on receipts. I mean, it's a very strong API. So, we can build some software around it. And then also, we can automate that software. And then you can also automate these transactions, which is what we're doing with this one use case of auto syncing invoices to receipts. If the receipt of the part, if the part number, if the invoice, which is usually what's called an invoice, right? I don't know if you're familiar with an invoice, but basically if I buy something from a company We don't pay for it right away. We get an invoice for it. And then we can say, okay, does the invoice match the amount of parts we received? Check, yes. Did the invoice match the part price that we wanted to pay for? Yes, check. Is this the correct, you could ask another question. And if those three things are correct, pay the bill.
Yes.
Why is the human in the loop? Like, why does the human then need to write the invoice, okay, write the check, do the payment, do the electronic payment, even using things like receipts.com or like bills.com, great. Bills.com is great, but you still have to physically go into it, hit pay, do these different things. But imagine you can automate some of those workflows because it is the rule. So why is a human involving themselves when something is the rule? It matched what it's supposed to do. Again, we're not far in this journey. We're starting it, but I think there's a lot to do. So, okay, but anyways, let's go back to this. So top 20 parts, usages and demand summary. I mean, literally it's writing this whole report for me. How to read the report, right? How is it, it's starting to do with something called a standard deviation, right? So it's trying to also understand the data much more broadly so that we can take more out of it, right? So let's just go straight to the summary. I mean, it literally is saying, hey, this is the number one part, this is the description, tells me how much I've used, how much in 2024, how much in 2025, 2026 year to date, which is, this year. So, it's showing me all the usage over the years and what did it do for me year over year. So it's showing me that what is declining in usage, what's increasing usage. I mean, imagine taking this to your supplier and saying, hey, look, these are our top 20 parts. Look how much we're using. Give me better pricing. Awesome. Right? We're buying 189,000 of these, and okay, hey, by the way, we're buying 146,000 of these, and our use is only going up. So let's start going up on let's start buying more, or let's start getting us better pricing on this part. And this was just transactions. Imagine you gave it another set of data, like how much we're actually paying for these parts, how many times, which boards these parts are being used on, etc. I mean, again, this is just, I would call it tip of the iceberg sort of thing. And again, it went into some more other things like demand and variability. Again, I could probably use this report more and more. There's things in here that I didn't even think I needed to understand about my own data. So again, this was within just a few keystrokes. I mean, this is like a superhuman power within keystrokes.
Awesome. No, thank you, Raj. This is super helpful for anybody watching this, trying to understand the data. And if you have to conclude and summarize, right, how you're, as an organization, how your AI strategy, how are you thinking about it every day, every week? How do you are enabling the rest of the team members? Anything you want to share that makes people start to think about moving away from that randomization mindset, being confused about tools, to saying here's a couple of ways in which you can start to jump on it.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. Number one is getting other people to use it. First, I need to use it, right? As the business owner, I need to know what is this tool? What's possible? What's not possible? What can I do? What's not possible is I think, an understand. Everything's possible, right? You just have to figure out how to use it that way. But so I think that's one thing, is you as a user, you as the business owner, you as the leader, any leadership role, you need to use it. You need to understand it. You need to figure out what else can you do with it. I mean, I gave you a small piece. We're also building true apps with it. It's building Python code. It's literally building out that data thing I showed you, right? We just a small little piece of information is we built a new server, a very inexpensive computer that we bought from Dell. We're doing data replication on the server. So it's just copying the SQL data over, which is the standard thing. Our IT company's handling that. Within 8 or 10 hours, they're able to do this. The PC itself cost $1,500, okay? We're copying over, and because we're trying to be careful, we're copying over all that data, automatically. We're installing a tool called Claude Cowork on the computer, which is Claude that sits on your desktop and actually can control folders and take data. So it's going to have access now to this replicated data. It's siloed, it's controlled. There's no backward flow up to our system. So it's a very good test case. And it's helping me, it's taking the data and it's actually writing the app that I want to build, so that what we showed you, which is understanding that data from that ERP, I'm building a full-fledged app And it's going to be using that data, but think about all the data all at once. I'm going to be able to access all the data all at once in this tool, and it's actually building the app. It's writing the Python code. It's writing the JavaScript. It's actually helping me build the app. We're not there yet. We're almost there, but it's incredible. I mean, so I think just even using Claude, you're already going to be so far ahead. And as we go forward, so as I was saying, as the leader, you need to start using this tool. And even me, I'm starting to use it more and more and more, like this MES tool. I'm going to show to the team how capable this is, because people are still not sure how to use it yet. The other thing you can do is, have a small wins meeting where every week or two, whoever built something really cool in Claude, have a meeting, showcase it, applaud everyone's effort into it, let other people see how they're using it. Go to YouTube. I mean, there's so many YouTube videos about how to use Claude. It's insane. You wouldn't be able to watch all of them. Even if you spend all your time watching them, you wouldn't be able to do it. So I think getting strong into one of these tools is great. But then, going into more of some of those automation tools, like where we're building software, going in and automating, getting the invoice data, and doing, something you and I have talked about is like automating email responses, right? So just a small background, we buy 10,000 line items of parts a year. We buy a lot of parts. When I say line items, I mean we do what's called a purchase order. So we send a purchase order to our vendor. We're saying, hey, we want to buy part 1, 2, and 3. Maybe they're part of those top 20 parts that I showed you. I want to buy 10,000. I want to buy 20,000. I want to buy 30,000. So I send that purchase order. They get it. We don't pay for anything yet. They send us the parts, and we receive those parts in the system, right? And so, but between us purchasing the parts and receiving, we want to know, are those parts going to get here on time? Are there any changes? Are there any updates? So we get lots of emails. So imagine you could have this sort of agentic response to these emails where, let's say there's a critical part coming in. And one problem we've always had is the part's not here today. Why not? Where is it? Oh my God, our supplier never shipped it, right? So now we're a day behind. Now we're going to UPS read the part in the next day. And now our customer's upset because they're not getting the part on time. Imagine just even saving face to the customer. The ROI is just that I want to save face in front of my customer. So this agentic tool could be waiting and saying, hey Raj, it's 5 days from when that part's supposed to be due. I still don't have a tracking number in our system. I'm going to go ahead and email the supplier and tell them I don't have a tracking number. Can you get me an update? And then maybe when the response email comes, it'll update me again. Or if it's good to go and it gets a tracking number and it knows it's going to be delivered in time, it'll just put that tracking number in our ERP silently and just either alert me that it's fine or not even alert me, because maybe that whole loop happened without me even knowing, which is insane, right? So yeah, I think I don't know if that kind of helps step it up, but maybe this isn't tools that we would probably build. We'll probably, work with someone like Bitcot to help us kind of integrate some of these tools, but it's coming or it's already here.
It is. And thank you so much, Raj. I think this was very insightful, walking through different use cases, and I really appreciate your time today in helping us go through all of that.
No problem. Glad I could help.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Raj. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.